Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good, and I'm your host, and joining me this week is my go-to podcast compadres, Mr. Joe Lever.
Hello, Jimmy.
And Mr. Levi Fletcher.
Heyo.
Hello, boys. There we go. Welcome back for another dose of a little bit of that sweet, sweet Star Wars. Yes, we're doing something a little bit different these couple of weeks here, kind of going through the original trilogy. Finally got all of us to sit down and watch these, not together, which would have been, honestly, much better. Dang, we should have done that, guys. That would have been way cooler. But this week we're talking Empire Strikes Back specifically. Now, Joe's never seen it before. Levi and I have first, but this time I'm going to switch it up. Let's start with Levi. Levi, how do you feel about Empire now that you've rewatched it? I know you watch these movies every couple of years, but where does Empire fall for you?
I'd say Empire's probably like third or fourth for me on the list.
Of all Star Wars?
Yeah, either 2, 3, or 4.
And
it kind of changes.
Yeah, why is that?
No. Just where I rank it.
Yeah, there's no reason. It's pretty high up there amongst like...
Oh, it's pretty high up there, yeah, because it's just such a stylistic shift from 4 and just really propels the series. I think that was very unprecedented for that time.
Yeah.
I didn't think people thought that like a sequel, like a 5th movie sequel was going to be, going anywhere, but...
Sure, and at the time it was just the second one. It wasn't the 5th one, but now we know it's the 5th one. Yeah. So
when did it release?
That one came out in 1970 or 1980.
Wasn't it 74?
No, 77 was the first Star Wars, and then I think 80 was Empire, and then 83 was Return of the Jedi.
How did they market it? Was it just Empire Strikes Back, or did they call it Episode 5?
No, they just call it Empire. I think they called it Empire Strikes Back. I don't know if they're calling them episodes yet by that time. I'm not sure. But anyway, what is there anything that stands out to you? Because I know that Joe's gonna have a lot to say because this is kind of his first time watching it, and obviously sitting behind you is an AT-AT. Like, you gotta talk about Hoth a little bit, right?
Old school Star Wars. Well, actually, it's like Star Wars, all the prequels. So it's 1 through 6. So
yeah,
I love that poster. No, it's just like if you, I don't know, like for a new fan of Star Wars, I'd find it a little jarring to like hear the hype of like Empire Strikes Back and then watch A New Hope and you're like, when does the good stuff happen? And then you get to Empire Strikes Back and you're like, oh, gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, what was that for you though? Sure. What was the good stuff for you then?
I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, the Battle of Hoth is one of the coolest. Like, I couldn't even imagine being a teenager or a young adult and seeing that for the first time and just getting your mind blown. Like, how did they shoot this? Like, huge war going on.
Yeah, does that still hold up for you though? Is the real question. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say before we get into Joe's kind of feelings towards it?
No, I just oh god, I just lost my train of thought. On my list, it's just much higher up there than A New Hope is.
Okay.
Really...
All right. Well, let's move on. Joe, I really want to get to your opinions, obviously, because that's kind of what I think both of us are interested in. Where do you stand with this one now, watching this comparatively to A New Hope? We'll just start there, maybe kind of broad spectrum. Did you like this more or less?
More, and as I expected, it was a step up. Yeah, I think as far as effects, practical as they may be, they were well done. The way they did certain things was pretty impressive for that time. The ingenuity and whatnot, per se.
Yeah.
The battle on Hoth, which is Ice Planet, right?
That's
where
correct.
the AT-ATs show up.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how the hell when did the AT-ATs show up? Did they just drop from the battleships?
They just dropped them off somewhere,
Yeah.
a certain distance away. Why they dropped them off that far away, we'll never know.
Yeah, miscalculation of the trajectory and the gravity of the planet and such.
Yes, very much so.
Overall it was cool. I liked Vader a little bit more in this one, and that he was a little more minuscule screw up, but I'm gonna choke you out anyway just because I like to.
Yeah, he's dropping bodies the whole movie.
Yeah. The sequences, each step of the storyline, it was pretty cool. I don't think I'll ever like Luke.
Really?
I'm trying to not get into the things I don't like yet.
Don't you feel like he's such a different character though this time around? He's like definitely not as
Yeah, I mean, for sure, matured a hair, but still the whiny, rash, dumbass he was
Sure.
at the start, I guess. But trying to think. Things I liked.
Okay. Do you want
A little bit more lightsabers showed off here?
Sure. I
A
was
bit
saying,
more of that. I like that.
Like some lightsabers.
I did enjoy like they tried to do like if they had 3D movies back then, the whole flying through the air and fighting in that first sequence, the battle on Hoth. That would have been really cool.
What are your thoughts on like the Wampa scene? You know, with him using the Force and really coming into his own as a Jedi. Like, what is your take from that?
And by means Wampa, he means like the abominable snow creature in the very beginning.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was kind of cool. I love when it was like eating his steed, whatever those things are called.
The Tauntaun.
Cave, yeah. That was kind of neat. And then I like how he just slices its arm off and it's just like
I don't know why he left. He could have taken that fight. And I don't know how that thing stuck him upside down in ice like that. Did he like hold him up there? Like how did he do
I like
that?
how they zoom in on his feet like he was put in there with like super glue that kind of looked like ice but not. Yeah.
How did he cut his boots? Anyway, no, sorry. Levi has a good question. What did you think? So Luke kind of like becoming more of a Jedi using the Force to grab his saber and stuff. Did you like that?
Yeah, sure. I like that he thought to try right away and do that. Great. Yeah, how the hell did he cut himself down? I don't know. He scratched the surface of the cave ceiling and it just oh shit, he poked me. I'm gonna let him go, said the cave. I don't know.
The cave.
But yeah, I mean that was all fine and dandy. Obviously they had to go somewhere with it and start injecting that more into the storyline, but because that's a major part of this movie, obviously.
I just love how Han is like genuinely concerned of like where Luke is, and in the first one he was kind of like, meh. But
sure, he becomes a little more caring to the overall. Like they become friends essentially, and
that camaraderie starts to brew in this one.
A little bit of a crew, even though they're both after the same woman.
Well, okay, I want to talk to you about that because there's that love triangle you mentioned in A New Hope, but how do you feel about that now?
Whoever was developing this whole thing did not know how to do romance whatsoever.
Well, is it weird that like Leia also kind of in a way sexually assaults Luke the way that Rose does to Finn? I don't. It's like she just goes in the beginning. She's just like, well, this is what like I'm gonna show you, Han, and starts making out with like an injured Luke, and Luke just kind of puts his hands behind his head. It's like this is really weird, guys.
And the next thing you know, she's professing her love to Han as he gets frozen, you know?
Well, and that's a little ways down like there's a whole movie in there, right? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But as far as Han goes, I can see Levi last time you said you didn't quite like him because he's kind of just that snarky asshole and he is, and he really plays that almost to a fault. Like it's too much.
It's a shtick.
Really, yeah, it's a shtick, and it's not really there's no depth to it, I don't feel like, you know.
Oh, yeah?
I don't think it hinders the film. It actually, out of all the movies with Han, I feel like this is the least grating.
Really?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like Han in this one a little bit because you get a little more of his human side because he talks like in the beginning, right, with Leia, and he's like, yeah, you know, you're not going to tell me why you care about me, but like, I don't know. I thought it was a little bit better this time around, and they developed it more.
Ford really I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what did you guys think? Well, let's say, Joe, what do you think of Leia now? Any better than the first one?
Yeah. Sure.
Good. Sure, we got a sure.
I don't know that I care too much about her. And how is she related to Luke?
We can't tell you that. You got to watch the next movie.
You'll find out next Wednesday when you got to sneak in another movie under your belt.
They're brother and sister somehow, right?
There's no way to tell.
Or half brother, sister. I don't. Either way, all I know is when he finds that out and he realizes that he kissed her and was all cocky about it, he's gonna feel pretty freaking dumb.
Yeah.
One of the best pieces of cinema history.
Yeah, exactly. One character we're not really talking about yet, though, that I really do enjoy. I like Lando a lot. I like Lando Calrissian. I know he's a snake. I get it, but I think he plays it really well.
He does.
Sure. He was a snake for a good reason. I mean,
yeah, he's charismatic for his people, right? Like he became like the leader.
He's held at gunpoint.
Yeah, basically, and he's like, yeah, they beat me. Or they got here right before you guys did. What am I supposed to do? Yeah. I like him a lot though, and I like that he frustrates Han, and he's like, all over Leia.
They couldn't sense that Darth Vader was near. Like, come on.
What was that?
They couldn't sense that Darth Vader was near. Like, you could.
They're not force sensitive. Well, I mean, not completely yet.
Whatever.
Leia's getting there eventually. He's Vader. He can force cloak himself or something. I don't know. But yeah, I know we talked about Hoth, and now we're kind of talking about Lando and Bespin. I love how the Cloud City looks, and I know they added another CG. Like, there's like a fly around moment in there too. But the aesthetic of that place, especially like Sunset, I think is so cool. I don't know. I think it still really holds up, and the design of it, like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I still think it's neat. And Joe, what did you think about Bespin?
I'm curious to know how they made it float on a planet. No gravity there, maybe?
They've got anti-gravity and gas boosts and whatever.
Yeah,
it's not science fiction. It's science fantasy. I mean, space fantasy.
They don't explain any of these things. That drives me nuts. No, I thought it was cool. It was neat. A lot of detail to it and ins and outs, which I thought was... I appreciate the detail.
Sure.
It was cool.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, Empire really opens up the Star Wars world, right? Because in New Hope, you get desert planet, spaceship.
Yep, pretty much. Yep.
And now you get an ice planet, you get a cloud planet, you get all these different things.
Yeah, which I think takes us over to Dagobah. Is that... I don't know where Dagobah sits in there with Yoda. Is that... What's your favorite planet right now in this movie? Is it which one of those three for you guys?
I like Dagobah. Yeah, Hoth is a little. I think the ice trope is just a little bit too cliche. But I mean, this is the movie that created the cliche, right? So
I guess so. True. Joe, did you say you liked Hoth best?
I don't know. I liked it, but then again, I guess Dagobah is kind of cool because there are more threats. The whole swampy mysteriousness is kind of interesting. And there could have been a bit more to that. Like, what was the thing swimming in the water? Like, come on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I was watching behind the scenes about it, and they kind of said that you wouldn't want to get in that water later on because they put a lot of stuff in there, and they're like, it was like a living kind of like set after a while. Like, that's all the snakes and things on there, and those are all real. And yeah, they said.
Oh yeah, I noticed how they had like pythons and stuff in the trees, and they had a bunch of lizards.
There's got to be a Star Wars name for all those things. It'd be like, well, it's a Dagobian python, and it's actually quite different than an Earth python, like that. Yeah, I liked how that was very different than the clean kind of structures that you get with Bespin, and Bespin obviously kind of has like this old, like there's this kind of, I don't know if like neo-futuristic aesthetic to it, but you can definitely tell they made it in the 80s. And there's also, when they're like running, they're like leaving Bespin, a bunch of people are running out of Bespin. There's this one dude who's holding this thing that's like an ice cream maker. It just looks like an ice cream maker. And that guy, they brought him up in other comics and stuff too, and he's always holding this thing that looks like an ice cream maker. Because it's like, they just made props, and there's like, no one will notice this really quickly, so just grab this and run, pretend like it's like carriage or cargo. And they actually use that thing, and that's what the Beskar medal or whatever is in The Mandalorian when he gets it from the Imperials in that show. So they kind of have one of those containers that looks like an ice cream maker. So that's where it all started, was back in Bespin. Weird how those things kind of tie together, isn't it?
I like how automatic sliding doors are like the biggest deal in these shows. Like,
yeah,
it was so like. Yeah, for a main entry at a shopping center or something, automatic doors. Okay, yeah. I mean, a few grand a pop, $4,000, $5,000 a pop. How many doors are you really gonna make automatic?
Every door.
There isn't one door on any of these planets or ships that is not automatic.
It's gotta be automatic, Joe. You gotta. It's gotta be future or old. Wait, it's in the past. I lied. Yeah. It's in a different galaxy. Who knows? Okay, so here's my real question to you guys, though. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Start with Levi here. Levi, how do you feel about the one and only Yoda? Crazy old little gremlin goblin man. Yeah. There he is.
Before Levi, I'm sorry to interrupt, but here's the most the scariest and most disturbing thing on Dagobah was Yoda.
Continue. Or are you
That thing's a horrible little monster. It'll haunt my nightmares.
Joe, after this podcast, there's a little song I gotta show you on YouTube involving Yoda. So I think you'll find it quite hilarious. But yeah, I mean, young Levi was not a fan of Yoda, but present me thinks it's pretty funny.
Okay.
He can deal with the puppet.
Yeah, do you like him? I still like what do you like or not like about him?
He's senile. Like he's just like this little scamp running around, like getting piggyback rides off of Luke. I think it's hilarious.
Sure. Okay. Cool. Does the puppet hold up?
Sure, puppet holds up.
Sure, practical effects. I mean, it looks like it's a real thing. The texture, everything, it's there. You could reach out and touch it.
Sure.
It's a classic.
Yeah. Joe, I know you've always had an aversion to Muppets and puppets, and you said scariest thing on here. Is it really that scary, or are you just kind of like, is it freaky to see it interact with a human like it does?
Whatever. I don't know. He's slightly disturbing. I remember when he met him, I was just like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't think I'd let him crawl all over me like he does.
He's not crying. I mean, he's just using it as a backpack, right? He's not like sliding him up him or something. But did you like the change when he becomes like senile, like, but then he goes into like real Yoda, where he starts talking like Obi-Wan, and he's kind of like he's too old. Like, it's not gonna work.
Sure.
No. Yes. Yeah. Kind of. No.
Yeah. I mean, it's what I expected out of him.
Okay. Sure. Well, I love Yoda. I think he's really good. I mean, I get where you can see where he's kind of creepy, but initially, yeah. But I still think it holds up really well, and there's something kind of endearing about the physical Yoda versus like the CG Yoda that I think you get with in the prequels when you get that, and that's fine because there's much more you can kind of do with that. But there's something about that kind of tangible relationship, and I think they talked about this behind the scenes too. They're like, or George Lucas said, if we can't get Yoda to work, this whole movie's not going to work. He's like, the whole movie, it has to work to some degree because this is such a big kind of gamble we're taking. And they built that stage like 3 or 4 feet off the ground. And so I guess for me, I think about like the back end of it too, where it's like they had to do a lot of work, behind the scenes to make it happen. But besides all of that, I think the performance is really cool, and they do such a good job of making him so emotional for a puppet. Like, I mean, like you can really see that change from being like the kind of crazy, like I'm taking everything I want, and then later on he's just like he's totally wise and calm and picking an X-wing out of the swamp. You're like, whoa! Like I would never expect that little guy to do that, right? I don't know. Yeah. I like that. I enjoy that.
I mean, all in all, it is really well done, and you're right. The connection you get to him because he's practical and he's really there is second to none. But yeah, I mean, if I'm going to complain about a character, by the end of the movie, I wanted to shoot Chewbacca in the head.
Here we go. All right,
let's want to freaking right in the temple, drop him.
Well, I've never heard this. Okay, why did you want to kill Chewbacca?
Like, I don't care if we're best friends. I'm going to look at that thing and say, you freaking scream one more time. I'm going to put something through your forehead. You're going to, I'll forget about you immediately.
So you hated his roar?
Like, how many times does he gotta?
That's how he communicates, man.
And it's funny because the movie you're watching it at a volume, and then all of a sudden, and you're like, yeah, and it's just constant towards the end. I'm just like,
I'll give it to you. The Wookiees are a lot cooler in the prequels.
So. Well, they're only in like one of the prequels, so.
Well, the third episode, but they're badass.
So. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, so Joe, you just don't like how they sound. But how about the beginning?
I get it, but it's just like every turn.
He's crying out in pain. He's like, Han's dead. They like shut the doors and he like kind of puts his head on the ladder. It's so sad.
Literally, any Star Wars fan is going to flame this channel now.
No, that's okay. I'm not worried about that. They're not watching. Okay, so they can
hate me all they want.
I thought you hated Chewbacca for certain reasons besides just how he sounded. I thought there was something he did that made you frustrated.
No, he's fine. I mean, overall, his character, I like his role and all, but in all reality, there's not much to it. Just one of the crew kind of a thing, and no dialogue, just there for a presence kind of a thing. Cool presence nonetheless. Sure. But yeah, I literally, maybe it was just because I was watching it late, and it just really started to get to me. I was just like, will this thing ever stop screaming? Like, it was like a baby. Like, maybe I'm not ready for kids, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, that's okay. It's like that, but much higher pitched.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the droids get any better for you this time around?
No, I'll hate those till the end.
Yeah, they are just the comic relief. I mean, like, Chewbacca puts
I mean, I
C-3PO
like
back together.
R2D2 is fine, you know.
Yeah.
But CP3O is just like
C-3PO.
Like how cheesy, like dumb can you get?
Sure, yeah.
I don't know.
Just hates them so much. Levi, did they, like, for the droids for you in this one, or was it pretty much the same as you'd expected in the past?
Yeah.
Nothing better. Nothing worse. He knows 6 million different languages. He should be cooler than this. I think the last thing I really want to like focus on heavily here before Joe kind of, if he has lots of criticisms to kind of levy, let's talk about that lightsaber fight at the end. Vader versus Luke. I love. There's a few things I want to just mention before you guys get a shot at it. I love a few things in this fight. One of my favorites is the part where Vader just says, "All too easy." Like he's got Luke. He thinks he's got Luke in the carbonite freezing chamber, and he's like, boop, like he's like, mission accomplished. And you see Luke just
what
like,
did he say? He said something.
He says,
he's
all
like,
too
wow,
easy. He says,
yeah, all too easy,
and then
clearly not as strong as I thought or something.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, clearly I overestimated you or something. And then he like sees him like climbing on these like pipes or whatever, these like ropes above him, and he's like, impressive, most impressive. He's like, well, looks like you made it out of my trap.
Well, because he force jumped out of it, right?
He does. But I also love two other moments. I love the moment where Luke's like, well, where is this guy? And he's kind of going down the hallway. Vader comes out of nowhere. Like, Vader, I don't know how he, like, held his breath. And then he's just like, he just comes out, and Luke's like, oh my God. Like, he's just, like, waiting for him. I was like, Vader is going for the kill. I love it. But I also really enjoy Vader just chucking debris at him, and he's just, like, holding the lightsaber, and he's pointing
yeah, that was so bad. And
I
it's
love
not even
it.
moving fast. It's just like kind of hovering and then kind of and Luke's just kind of
I love it so much. It's so funny to me, and I get it was the times, right? They can only do so much. Like it would hit Luke here, and then he would turn like 2 seconds later and be like, ugh, and then he could like hit in the back, and he's like, God. Like, it's like those things. Why? It's like nice try. But that confrontation is really good, and I do really enjoy him talking to Luke during and after that battle. They kind of have these moments, but it's like the first time you hear Vader speak to somebody not in like this very authoritative tone, and he's kind of like talking to him. He's like, you know, we could do this together, and he's not like, I'm gonna kill you right away. But I do love that he's like, you got to join me, man. We can take over this whole thing, huh? We're pretty good.
He's basically saying that with you at my side, we could overthrow the Emperor and rule the galaxy. So
pretty much,
you know, he's working for the Emperor, who is Palpatine.
Very good, very good.
And he's working for him and saying, I'll convert him to the dark side. He'll be one of our minions. And Palpatine's like, yes. And doesn't think for a second, well, okay, wait, if he's related to Darth Vader and he knows that, and then he becomes dark side, and then they're not going to want to overthrow me to take all the power.
Oh, you're going to love to see what the twist is going to be. It's good. You're not ready for it, but it'll be good. Yeah.
Well, needless to say, that whole fight sequence, I'm just like, I looked into the history of why Vader, his suit and kind of the information on it, the lore and whatnot, but, is made clunky in order to kind of hinder him slightly so he wasn't too powerful and whatnot. And I mean, maybe that's their way to explain away how he doesn't look that eloquent in his sword fighting in these ones.
Sure.
Like, when you go back to Rogue One and he's in that tube or whatever, it looks like he's like he could just spin that lightsaber and just freaking fan through all of them. But in these ones, he's kind of like, it's like a medieval knight swinging a sword that's too heavy for him,
Sure. Yeah, but this is light years better than the first A New Hope, that lightsaber battle.
Well, for sure,
Yeah.
sure. It's not nowhere near as slow and hokey. It's a little better, but yeah, and I like how he gets tagged in the shoulder and
Yeah.
he reacts to it. But it's weird. It's like all of a sudden Luke just goes from like amateur hour to I'm going toe to toe with Darth Vader, who's built up in your mind as like the baddest thing in the galaxy. But obviously Vader had to hold back to some degree because he wanted to convert him. He didn't want to kill him outright. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I like how he wasn't holding back that much because he cut his freaking hand off.
I was gonna say, is that pretty crazy? It's pretty rough to see that happen. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa! It's getting serious.
Yeah.
He just cut his hand off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
Yeah, what does he say? Luke, I'm your father deal.
No, he.
How
Okay,
does he say it?
I looked it up because everybody thinks he says, "Luke, I'm your father." He does not say that. He says, "Obi-Wan never told you whatever happened to your father," and Luke's like, "I know enough." He's like, "He told me you killed him," and he's like, "No, I am your father." And then he's like, "Oh no!" Like,
I remember. I was like, his reaction to that is like, what does he do? He's like curled up out on that antenna, and he's like, no, can't be.
Yeah, that's impossible.
And he's just like, no. And he's just, I'm just like, oh my god,
it's a little dramatic
now.
It is dramatic. I know we were talking about.
Yeah, but with like no oomph or feeling behind it, like it just seemed like.
He's frustrated, man. He said it's impossible. He's the thing he's been fighting the whole time has been his dad, kind of, I guess. I don't know. Levi, how do you feel about this fight scene? What do you think about it now, watching it back?
It's definitely better than the one from A New Hope. I actually think it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
I can't really stomach any of the lightsaber fights from the prequel or from the. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite moment? Is it like where Joe said he got tagged in the shoulder? It's a good moment.
No, I do like the debris moment though. It's pretty funny.
The debris moment's pretty funny. It's pretty classic. I mean, it's not as good as Vader coming out of nowhere. He's just like, I mean, go back and watch that fight. He really is not. He's like holding his breath. I think he's just like, he's coming around the corner. He's like, I'm gonna get him. You'll never see it coming.
He takes Luke's hand. Like, I think,
and lightsaber.
Probably for its time, that was probably really unprecedented for a movie to inflict that much damage on like a major hero character. Am I wrong?
Yeah, there probably was other movies, but not to that degree, right? And it does feel like the stakes are higher, even though he does get a robot hand like immediately after.
Yeah.
They're like, there you go. They're like, stakes are gone. But yeah, losing his hand and his lightsaber. But yeah, Joe, like when you saw that, did you know he was going to lose his hand there?
Yeah, well, I had seen the Family Guy rendition of this, a few times, so I kind of knew what was going to happen. And in all honesty, I cheated. I watched the half-hour Family Guy episode to get the story down. But
I can't tell if you're. I was like, I don't think. I was like, why would you complain about Chewbacca then so much?
Yeah, because Brian the dog plays Chewbacca, and all he does is yell the whole time. No, honestly, there were a lot of things where, like, in all seriousness, the Family Guy skit did, like, kind of got all those steps with, like, funny quips in between or little skits in between that obviously aren't from the movie, but the base storyline, yeah, I mean, the losing of the hand and stuff like that. Like, I knew they happened, but I wasn't thinking of it going in. I was just kind of enjoying it as I watched, and a kind of pleasant surprise, stuff like that. So,
were you frustrated that he fell to his death, but not to his death? I thought that'd be something that bothered you.
Oh no! Well, I mean, I knew he was gonna like force jump or whatever.
Sure.
Whatever. But or was that meant to be like he didn't like use the force at all? He just fell in a tube. And,
he had to,
like,
right?
You have to.
Yeah, he'd break himself, right? Like, yeah.
I don't care what kind of slide you're hitting, you're dead on impact.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Or your heart stops halfway down. Yeah, so what happened to his lightsaber? Because his hand got cut off with the lightsaber in it.
Nobody knows.
He no longer has it, huh?
Yeah, he doesn't have it. We don't see it again until The Force Awakens. Believe it or not. Huh. Yeah. last thing I do want to mention or bring up to both of you guys right now is Han Solo getting frozen in carbonite. I know you guys aren't necessarily the biggest Han Solo fans, but did that do anything for you? Did that hurt you at all? Or are you just like, put him on ice, baby?
Oh no, I was like, okay, he's safe. He's good. He ain't gonna die now.
Sure, he's safe for now. Yeah, Levi, how about you? Well, the first time you saw that, what was it? What did you feel?
It's cheesy.
It's cheesy. Yeah?
Yeah.
Like I said,
I'm
okay.
not a big Han fan. I'm sorry.
That's okay. He loved Solo: A Star Wars Story. I like that moment because I think it's a real, like, he has that perfect line where she's like, "I love you," and he's like, "I know." And apparently, what they did is the director for this film, who I believe was like George Lucas's old like film school director, teacher, or something like that, professor, was directing this one, and they try to do a sequence where like she said she loved him, and Han said it back right away, but it didn't feel right. So apparently, one of the times he's just like, "Hey, we're rolling. All right, and go." Leia, you say your line. Now Han, you say whatever comes to mind, and he just said, "I know." And that, it was just like, I think it's just like a perfect response for him to say that, especially after this whole movie.
Oh yeah, I think it was good.
Yeah, well, after the whole time of him just kind of like always kind of getting up in her business and just being like, he's like, princess, we got something between us the whole time, and just like finally him just being like, yeah, whatever, I know, it's fine, I knew, it's not a big deal. So I like that, and yeah, I think it really sets up a third movie, and it's kind of cool. I think in this one, to see the heroes fail, I think that's why Avengers Infinity War is still a movie I really enjoy too, where you have like this, like, it's not the end, obviously, but you do have this like, whoa, like the good guys lost in a kind of a big way. Like when you're done at the end of this movie, it's like, all right, so Luke lost a hand, Han Solo is like off in Jabba's palace, and the Empire is strong as it's ever been, if not stronger. So it kind of like, it doesn't really paint a good picture for the future. But I think that's kind of compelling too, right? Like, am I the only one who feels that way? Like, do either of you feel that either?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it sets you up for what's gonna happen next. I mean, big bad's badder than ever, and the heroes are down and out. How can they make a resurgence, right? So it's good for the audience to keep that interest.
Yeah.
That palate wet.
Yeah.
Palate wetted.
Palate is wet. That's weird. Levi, how about you? Levi, you said this is number 3 or 4 from you out of all the Star Wars. It's your favorite out of the trilogy of the originals, correct?
Yeah, that one and Last Jedi or not Last Jedi, Return of the Jedi are probably pretty close.
Okay.
Pretty neck.
Yeah, because we'll have to talk about that too. Is there any other favorite or least favorite things for you before I let Joe say and levy any other criticisms he has?
No, I mean, the only thing, and it's just a small thing, and I just don't like obviously these came first, but it kind of bothers me how Obi-Wan and Yoda act a little naivety, act a little naive.
Yeah.
As far as like, it's like, he's, exactly what happened. You were in the Clone Wars, you know all this stuff, but you're acting like, oh, we have no idea what this is. It's like, okay.
They want Luke to kill Vader. That's what they want. They want him to stay on Dagobah, get trained up, and then go kill Vader. That's what they want.
Yeah, which is great. It just, it's just kind of jarring if you're watching from the prequels and then to here, you're like, oh, wow.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Fair enough. Any favorite moment from the film, though? Do you have a favorite
one? Favorite. I just like the tauntaun getting sliced open, little.
How they survive
practical effects.
I literally remember that moment, like him just being so grossed out as a kid.
Yeah,
I was like, ugh, like I can't believe they're doing that. But
give Han Solo a lightsaber is what Levi's saying.
Mm-hmm.
He did a good job. I don't know how Han. I was thinking about this. How does Han survive that? And like the tauntaun doesn't. Like, they're like, your tauntaun's going to freeze before you find him. I'm like, isn't Han maybe going to freeze before they find him? I was like, well, I'm not saying that. I don't know. It's just a thought. Anyway, Joe, I want you to give any just unabashed thoughts, feelings towards it, if you have any.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was a step up in the right direction. I can see how I would think that these keep progressing more and more. Obviously, there's only one left in the old style, and then it jumps to the prequels and early 2000s or whatever it was, but or late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s. You're right.
I enjoyed it. I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the whole thing. I'm being critical and kind of picking out the things that kind of like jump out at me is like, man, really, that's what they thought to do. But um, overall, I mean, the story, it's kind of there. I feel like they're limited in what they can do. It doesn't have as much grandeur as something like, say, today's Avengers movies or something of that nature. Um, and I compare it to that, not like a solo Marvel movie, like solo character movie, because you have such an ensemble in
Sure.
like Star Wars, and there are so many characters involved, and all with a highly ranked name in their own right. Um, so I kind of compare it to something like that, and it's interesting the detail and how they tell the story based on, as compared to here, where it's a little more, it doesn't have as much depth to it. It's a little more just straightforward,
Yeah.
and it's kind of okay. We got our point across. Next shot.
Yeah.
It's not very. How is it weird that I want to say it feels a little chopped up? Maybe
Chopped
it's
up.
because they're constantly going from place to place or jumping from here to there, kind of at
Sure.
I will say it's kind of at a quick pace.
Yeah, I think it moves it along though, right?
Sure, yeah, I guess I don't have any complaints. I just feel like thus far the character development is slightly lacking.
Oh, really? I thought
You
you'd like that
know,
because this one's got a little more character development.
maybe I guess I don't pick it up that well, but there's nothing that makes me like, man, I really love this character. Like Darth Vader, just there he is. There's no like, they don't start in the cafeteria with a couple of stormtroopers talking about Vader and, well, since he came into power and the things he's been doing, there's no like build up to him. It's just like, here he is.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of that luster or sparkle from the character. I feel like I like Vader. You have to like Vader. That mysteriousness with the helmet and everything, and kind of wondering what's under it, and just his overall presence. A lot due in part to the outfit, and it's very iconic. Not even just because it's been around forever, but even at the time when you see him, for the first time, it's like, wow, that's a imposing figure, in silhouette in general. But I just I just want more to make me feel like, to really add that, not that I want to care about him per se, but I want to, trying to think of how to explain it, but I want to
Connect.
connect. Yeah, sure. I guess in layman's terms, connect with that character more and understand him a little more in order to kind of go, I hope Vader just kills them all, kind of a thing, not just arbitrarily say because he's a bad guy, I'm rooting for him,
If only there were movies
Yeah.
that talked
Well,
about this.
and Luke overall, just to me, seems kind of cheesy. Like he is a very straightforward, formulaic, and the dialogue, and the delivery of everything is very, like 1970s sitcom.
Well, it
I'm
was
a
the 70s
teenager
and
and I'm going
80s,
to do
right?
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
it just feels like there's no depth to it. It's very surface level. Here are your lines, deliver them. You're a teenager, act a little rebellious and rash and kind of snarky. Okay, check the box, I guess, and it just doesn't make me connect with him on a level of, I'm really rooting for you, Luke. Okay, take it to him, Luke. I'm kind of more like,
Sure,
careless about it. And I think those two being the main characters, you focus on them a lot, so it really stands out. Some of the others, I think it's better. I think they do a better job with Han. And then Leia, really only through interaction with Han does she kind of, take more of a front seat. So I think in that regard, they do a decent job with them. Hell, the droids, C3PO and R2D2. I mean, there's more like development with them, and one doesn't even freaking talk, And I think that's just through the interactions and the dialogue back and forth and the shared experiences. It's a little more intimate with them sometimes. Um, when, yeah, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes that I feel like they're trying to build Darth Vader up as such a force within the galaxy. Like, Yoda and Obi-Wan want him, to be knocked off the throne kind of a deal. Yet they do nothing. The only thing they really do to set that precedence is, oh, he's walking around a ship giving orders and he chokes somebody out now again.
Mm-hmm.
And where I want something more impactful, and the problem is I have other things to reference, like things like Thanos and even like somebody like Magneto from X-Men. That's kind of like the level I put Darth Vader on.
Sure.
And that's just with the aura that's around him in pop culture. But now actually seeing these movies that heavily feature him and where he came from, I'm kind of like, man, they should have done something to make him seem like such a threat that, like, I want that Thanos level. Maybe not quite that crazy. Obviously, Thanos is like God scale, but I want him to seem like such a galactical threat and such a bad person that it's insanely intimidating. I think they give him that intimidation factor just through kind of some of his actions, but never do you see him like when he hits the ground on Hoth, he walks through that base. I don't think he really does anything.
He's trying to find the rebels, yeah. I think it's a lot of the problem is.
But can you imagine if it would have been him? He hits the ground and he's like force floating. I mean, you can't. It's hard to do because you don't have the ability to manipulate and do all this. It would probably be CG nowadays, or really, really good technological practical effects. But him like force floating over to people, slice, just like freaking show up and like the cannon fodder just starts guts spilling everywhere. That would be like, holy shit, this guy's something to reckon with. He just took out half the rebellion in this base and you were lucky to get out of there, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But he literally just watches the ship fly away and like, oh, dang,
Yeah, I think they can't. I think it was just the limitations of the technology.
Exactly.
What I mean?
So
right?
you can't totally fault them, but God, can you imagine if that was a moment in the film that would have been just like,
it'd be great.
Like Darth Vader posters everywhere.
I know. I already have them.
As if they're not already, right? But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just think of how impactful that would have been and how much of a, how much higher the pedestal would have been for him at the time. But I guess I find myself, and it's bad because I'm tainted because I have things to reference that make me want to expect that out of a character of this scale. So it's tough. You got to kind of draw a line in the sand and understand that what's it called? The limitations of the time. So, wow, you're same wavelengths. You knew the word immediately. All right.
What can I say?
Yeah, definitely not knocking it. Understanding the limitations, it's all great, but just in this day and age, that's kind of what I come to expect out of these characters that are supposed to be so impactful to a whole saga. But yeah,
you heard it here, folks. Joe doesn't think this movie holds up. No, I'm just kidding. He's like, get it out of here. I want to remake them immediately. No, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and obviously, I'm a pretty big Darth Vader fan, as we've talked about in the past. I've got posters. You guys can't see them, but they're there. Trust me, I love Vader, and I think it's because it's all the stuff we haven't seen. I know it sounds really stupid. Like, I love seeing what he's capable of, but I also I know there's so much more, and that's the issue, is they can't have him do all that for limitations back in the 70s, 80s. Also, nowadays, like, if you had that guy in the presence of others like that, there wouldn't really be fights. Like, they show up in Bespin and like Han shoots at him and he just kind of blocks both, grabs the blaster. Like, he did that. He could have done that, and then he didn't have to say, we'd be honored if you would join us. He could have just picked them all up and like put them in chairs and been like, all right, you're gonna sit here, and they'd be like, we can't move. Like,
sure,
you'd have been
yeah,
like,
which may be a little over the top. I kind of like
Yeah.
the dialogue and just the expectation that, hey, it's me, you're gonna sit the hell down.
Exactly, yeah. It's kind of like a
Which
Godfather.
I'm fine with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I just look at missed opportunity, man.
Sure.
It would have been so. I think back to so the Battle of Hoth. Well, featured in that the only Star Wars game I've played on Xbox One when it released a few years ago, and it was kind of a dud, Battlefront. Yeah. And I remember when certain people would get that kill streak thing or whatever, and they get Darth Vader, and you see him literally like kind of across the landscape.
Yeah.
Just, whoa, whoa. Like, if I would have seen something like that in that scene, I would be like, okay, this guy's like, I'm worried. These guys are screwed.
Yeah.
So it's just more of a want than a complaint.
Sure.
I'm running out of breath. I'm thinking and
that's fine.
And churn and burn so fast. But overall, I did enjoy the film. I don't have any dislikes that ruined it for me.
Good.
Something I noticed, you talk about Lucas was developing a space opera. It truly is an opera, because as I'm sitting there, it was kind of one of the scenes on Bespin, I think, even. And I'm like, wow, why are they playing music right here? It seems kind of odd. And I realized, well, it literally, like, they never stop the music. It just...
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets a little repetitive, or sometimes and when I noticed it, it was at a point where I'm like, they're playing music here? Like, for what? It doesn't seem like an appropriate time for it, but it just keeps going.
That's a really good observation, Joe. Very astute.
Yeah, and I don't know if I found it annoying per se. I felt like it was unneeded, but I understand they call it a space opera, so that's why they were doing it, but it's almost a little like, weird, like, you don't need it, but not that it's bad.
It's debut.
There are certain moments
of the Imperial March, which is one of the hottest bangers that's ever been made, baby. Yeah. It's so good. They played it a few times. I'm like, yeah, they're playing it. I'm like, here we go. Yeah. Like,
there are just points where you don't totally need it, but other than that, I mean, it was a quality film. Keeping in mind when it was made and everything. And I was surprised I could appreciate it more than I thought I would be able to. Kind of same thing with New Hope, but yeah.
So excited for you to watch Return of the Jedi now. So right now, the stacking for the two that you're talking about, New Hope's at the bottom, Empire's at the top.
Well, for sure.
For now. Well, let's start to wrap it up here. Levi, do you have community feedback and or question for us? You've just been our guy lately on the Discord, and I know that there is one because Mrs. Mage sent one in, so I know that there is.
Yeah. Okay, so he says, sorry in advance, I always find it funny how everyone says the wrong line from Luke and Vader scene. Luke, I am your father, rather than, no, I am your father. It's totally understandable why the first one is more recognizable and easier for people to know what you're referring to. My question is, and I know I'm going to be mad about it, are there any other misquoted lines from movies or any other form of media that you like? I think Jimmy and I were talking about this a little bit, like the whole Mandela effect, where you think there's a hyphen in between kit and cat, and there's not. Or, if you remember, like, it's being like Bernstein Bears, but actually it was Bernstein Bears, like spelling totally different.
Bernstein Bears?
Bears.
You know what I'm talking about, Paul? Have you ever heard about the Mandela effect?
No.
Where it's where you, like, remember something from your childhood or earlier, and you swear, like, it was that, right? But it wasn't. It wasn't that all along. Like, and there's just like some examples you can look up online. It's just pretty interesting. I always fall into a hole with it because I think it's super accurate. Like, people always thought there was like a 90s movie called Shazam or Kazam or something like that, starring, who is it, Jimmy? You know what I'm talking about. Shaquille O'Neal, and there never was one. Yeah.
Wait, what? There was Kazam. Isn't there Kazam? He's a genie.
Yeah, but there was like no, I don't think there was. I think it was like called something else, and people were like, no, I swear that was it. But
anyway, so we're looking for lines. Do you have a line, Levi, that you could think of right off the? I mean, that's probably one of the best ones right there.
Yeah, I mean that'd be the one I'd go to because people wouldn't really. I don't think true fans would recognize the Gandalf
It is.
one, but yeah.
Yeah, which that one's funny to me. Joe, I don't know if you had any time to look any of these up because it's hard to think of one off the top of your head of one that's like wrong that people misquote, but in the movie it's completely
Yeah, the movie
different.
Snakes on a Plane, Samuel L. Jackson. I'm sick of these Monday to Friday snakes on this monkey flying plane.
I don't
I'm
think
pretty sure I'm sick of these
we
monkey flying snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
wait.
Yeah.
Is that what is that?
I always reverse the terms, and I'm guilty of it myself.
The one I thought of that it's not that big of a thing, but it's in Jaws, and I think Brody says it, but he says everybody says I think we're gonna need a bigger boat, but he says you're gonna need a bigger boat or something, like he's directing it towards the boat captain, but he's out there on the boat, so he should be like we're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
at that
So
time,
everybody assumes,
Yeah.
smile, you
Which is
son of a
funny
bitch.
when Taco Bell used to have this mascot, like the little, Chihuahua,
yes,
and
Yeah,
when they were
Taco Bell.
heavily promoting Godzilla,
yes,
even the Taco Bell dog says, "Oh, we're gonna need a bigger box."
yeah, because they're trying to trap
You're gonna need
Godzilla.
a bigger box. Yeah.
You're gonna need a bigger box, Yokito Taco Bell.
I missed
I
that.
miss the Chihuahua. They should bring the Chihuahua back. For
They
sure.
should bring the Chihuahua back. It was probably something like they were not treating it well or something, like, which they should. They should be treating it well because it's a
Got all the
Chihuahua.
free tacos it could ever want.
They're like,
It's
I
living
don't
life.
I don't know what the problem was. We were giving it plenty of Baja Blast every day. Like we were just pouring it in the water dish. The dog's just lapping it up. I would be too. I do enjoy me some Baja Blast. Man, the smoothie game over at Taco Bell. I got to be honest with you guys. With their icy game, it's pretty good. It's pretty good Taco Bell. I don't talk
They
about that
look
much.
good, yeah.
Yeah, they're
look
they're
good.
very good. They're very good. There you go. That's wrapping up Empire Strikes Back. Just want to talk about it a little bit here. Thanks, boys, for chatting with me about it. It was really interesting to hear, Joe's new perspective. Levi, obviously a fan from way back when and still be one of his favorite Star Wars movies. I think for me, it's maybe number 3 out of all the Star Wars films of all time. Maybe,
Wait,
I don't know.
What? Oh, I'm assuming you go Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, what are you talking about? No, I think Revenge of the Sith is still number 1, and then you get to I think Rogue One. I watched Rogue One recently, and I still really like that film.
One.
I like Rogue One a lot. That's not just for the Darth Vader stuff. We'll get to it sometime. But I'm thinking, as we go on here, I think Return of the Jedi, Joe, I think you'll like the beginning a lot. I think you'll like Luke in the beginning. I think you'll enjoy some of the development of Vader in that one. And I'm hopeful that once you see that one, it'll make it feel like that trilogy ties together a little bit more for you. But there's definitely going to be stuff in there that you hate, for sure. So I know for sure what it's going to be, too. I'm like, he's going to hate this. But there's nothing I could do. I didn't make the movie.
We've started this train with you, and I would love to experience the prequels with you. I really, really would. I'd love for you to see Anakin become Darth Vader, and I want to see a reaction. So please stick it out because you're gonna love it.
All I know is if Joe gets to see that the scene, it's not played out in the movie, but Anakin's march on the temple, like he'll be like, "Now that's what I'm talking about."
Yeah.
It'll be like a whole movie of that guy, where he's just like, I'm gonna kill everybody." Like, Anakin, good times, buddy, good times. But thank you, boys, for hanging out with me here today, as you always do. I appreciate it. Do you have any other final words here? Oh, is Joe gone? We lost him.
He was like,
He's like, peace. I'm out of here. Levi, anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, we're good.
Okay, fair enough. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. If you have a question or a topic, please send it in via #CriticalPodcast to myself. I'm at JimmyGood013 or at GoCritical. You can send one over to Joe, which is at Lever_627, or you can send one over to Levi at Levi Fletcher. I can't even speak. Joe left. Lever Fletcher. Hashtag this week will just be hashtag. No, I can't say kill Chewbacca because like that might be kind of bad. It's probably like a spoiler for the next movie. Hashtag Imperial March. There you go. I like it. And yeah, if you want to support us, check out our Patreon and our Spreadshirt and all that jazz. But until next week, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye. All right, we lost Joe. He's gone forever, Levi.
I think that I think
He's gone.
I want to get him back though for just a minute.
Well, do you
So I
want
want to show him this
Oh, okay.
seagull thing.